What is up? It is Tuesday. You know what time it is. It is time for TCR Live, and we are going to do Overreaction Tuesday, reacting, maybe overreacting, maybe underreacting to the game that was. So we're going to get going. I am joined by Burd, who's just been activated from the pup list, but he's on a snap count, right? So we're going to go 45 minutes. But we're glad to have you back, Kyler. How are you, sir?
I am doing so much better. If Joe has not informed you, just had some back injury stuff going on that has not been a lot of fun, but a lot better. So sitting up again, talking to you, been watching the games, ready to talk about football again with you guys. So I'm that alone makes me feel better psychologically. So glad to be here. I'm ready to get going.
Well, I'm glad to have you back. And Aarron couldn't join us just because he's got some obligations. So Aarron's doing well, though. So Aarron Van Buren, we miss you, my friend. Let's say hey to some of the folks in the chat. Silverwolf dropped this. We need a Kyler Murray and Friends jingle for every time the team adds a player who is friends with KM1. I'm all for that. I think that'd be great. Mm-hmm. Grandizer dropping some links for us. Appreciate you telling people where to follow me and Aarron Van Buren, who's not here with us today, but still, and Kyler Burd. So thanks for all you do, Grandizer. Great supportive content creators as a whole. He's in my chat. He's in other folks. Just someone who really is, I know, appreciated by people like myself and Payo Time and such. So definitely thank you, Grandizer, for all that and stuff. Remind everyone to click like and everything. We got Rafael Castillo first. At least after 9 o'clock, right? So no cap. Thank you for being here. We got Brian Elawan, best night of the week in session. Joe, the man, the myth, the legend. Good to see you, kind of. Thank you, Brian. Brian's such a great supporter of the channel and just a good dude. Love following him on Twitter. If you're not following him, check him out on Twitter. We got Tony Height, another wonderful person who great supporter of the channel. Appreciate you being here, Tony. I know you can't always make it because of work and stuff, but glad you could drop in with us. So thank you for being here. We got Jordan P putting up yeah already, right? So yeah, right, no doubt, right? And we got AZ Valley Sports. Thanks for joining us. Were injuries why we didn't bring Alfred back? Man, we'll get it. We might talk about that a little bit. I think it's gonna be I know Kyler's got some thoughts on that. So yeah, there's some questions, right? Maybe they still will bring him back. I don't know. I think they didn't sign anyone yet, so I think it's a timing. I think they've got some sort of timing plan, and we can get to that later. We got Robert Moore with us. Good evening, gentlemen, who is also a writer on azsportsunderground.com. Be sure to check out azsportsunderground.com for all the best in indie Arizona sports content. The link is in the description below. All right, so Overreaction Tuesday. So what we're going to do, Kyler's going to present a reaction, and you all in the chat, I just want you to, kind of totally hammer him if it's an overreaction. No. But yeah, let them know it's an overreaction, an appropriate reaction, an underreaction, and we're going to go back and forth with those. And then we'll do that for about 25, 30 minutes. In the last 15 minutes, we will get your reactions and talk about if they're over or under reactions. But first, I want to say huge thanks because we have a super chat. Dial, thank you so much. Joe, I love you, man. Thanks for all you do for us. What is your number one game year? This year, Rams for me. Again, thanks for being our resident Cardinals professor, MG. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And Dial is also very active in our Discord. If you aren't part of the Discord, check out the link below. We have like there's like 130 something folks in there, and if you want to get some Cardinals conversation during the week between games and between TCR lives and the other live streams you're checking out, get into the Discord. We have good conversations in there throughout the week. It's a really nice active group. So thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Number one game this year. Now, for me, the one I mean, it's not the most anticipated in terms of play, but I'm planning tentatively to go to the Atlanta game. since I live here in Georgia, so I'm excited about that. But in terms of games, I mean, Rams obviously that's always a big important division game. But I want to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. To me, they're the class of the NFC, and I want to see how the Cardinals, match up against what I think is maybe the most complete team in this conference. What do you think, Tyler?
You took it straight from my mouth. Yeah, it was Tampa Bay. I mean, them and the Rams really are the test in the NFC. And I do think overall the NFC maybe is a little less talented than it has been in years past. There's a little bit of a power shift to the AFC this year, a little bit of a power movement that way. But and just the historical value of being able to watch Kyler Murray directly compared to Tom Brady. It's going to be an interesting game, and they probably are the most complete top to bottom offense and defense team. So if you can squeak out a win there, then that's great. It's a little bit later in the season, but if you're struggling, it might save the season, and if you're doing well, it might propel you straight into the playoffs. So
yeah,
Tampa Bay is top of my list, and second is Kansas City. I mean, they are still a powerhouse to be taken very seriously as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there. So seeing how we come out of the gate, I know we've come out hot, so it kind of doesn't bear up later in the season, but that would be a good one too. But Tampa Bay is probably my number one.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for the super chat. Just appreciate the support, the folks who have invested in the channel. And if you've been watching from the beginning, you know that I invest that stuff back in here. If you watch my first video, you'll notice the camera and the audio are very different. So I appreciate folks who have invested, and I try to continue to grow, make better content and improve on what I'm doing, and definitely appreciate the support that's helped me to do that. And of course, whenever we get the super chat, you know what happens, right? That's right. Meme time. Cheers to the super chatter. Thank you, MG/Jilo. We got the Walker. Thanks for being here. How about Cody Ford? Now, I did a video, and thank you, Grandizer, for posting this. I did a video about Cody Ford's role and future with the Arizona Cardinals. But I'll give you a chance real quick, Kyler. I know we'll get to those overreactions in a minute, but what were your thoughts about the trade for Cody Ford that went down this week?
I'm not against it. I don't think the price was too high. Maybe it's a little bit of an overpay from a purely objective standpoint, but it is interesting to see that this line that Keim has seemed to take this offseason, which is we're going to make Kyler Murray happy. And the moves that we have made to do that have also been good team moves too. That they haven't been just wild reaches by any means. The only downside, I think, is it makes me a little bit concerned about maybe some unknown injury issues going on in the offensive line room. I know we've heard the thing about potential stinger with Justin Pugh, which more than likely won't take him out for very long, but it might come up later through the season. And then Justin Murray dealing with his issue. So most likely it seems like a replacement for Justin Murray. Good depth, a guy that Kyler Murray likes, which is always a plus. So Steve Keim is just collecting the 2018 Sooners,
right,
slowly but surely, and we're gonna have all of them eventually
at some point, apparently, right? Yeah, in terms of the price, I don't mind a 5th round pick. Maybe it'd be sure. I'd love to got him for cheaper, but former 2nd round pick. The way I look at it, though, in part, is the Cardinals are slated to have 3 compensatory picks next year, including a 5th rounder.
Yeah, exactly.
And one thing to think about when you're looking at building a roster, going into next year with 10, would they be going in with 10 draft picks? You don't want too many rookies on your team. You want some. You want to be kind of replenishing the pipeline, but you want to have a nice mix of players that are, established veterans, ascending players, and rookies. So if they've got, they're looking like they're going to have 10 draft picks going into next year, I don't mind trading away a day 3 pick for a veteran, right, who's going to make Kyler happy. And you reference the injuries, and I would also add to that, they've mentioned, Marquise Hayes is out. He's, probably going to be back soon, maybe a week or two. And Will Hernandez is a little banged up. Yeah. None of those injuries seem to be serious, but if even 1 or 2 of them kind of linger into week 1, Cody Ford could be starting a game or two for the Cardinals. And, and if he works out, maybe he becomes that future starting guard next to Will Hernandez. You'd have to re-sign both of those, but I don't mind, I like taking the chance on it. Real quick, let's say hey to a couple of folks who jumped in. We got Agent 47. What's up, guys? Thank you for being here. And then so we'll just say good to have you back, Kyler. So I concur.
Thank you, man.
We've got Deontay Singleton jumping in, getting to the 53-man roster. Looks like it'll be tough. That is true. Like, I'll tell you
at this point.
I'm sorry.
It's putting it lightly right now. There have been some really good preseason performances that are still, unfortunately, not going to be good enough to make the 53. So, yeah, it's a hard thing because I hate thinking about people's dreams being crushed.
Yeah.
So I hope they get a chance somewhere else if it's not with us.
100%. I've got like a spreadsheet where I could just kind of have the roster and I kind of do the math, right, of the numbers game. And I've kept track of like how many people they kept at each position under Cliff Kingsbury's, tenure since 2019. And so, you have an idea of what they like to do when you see, they usually keep no more than 3 or 4 of these positions. So when you look at the math, it is really tough at certain positions. Running back, if someone isn't banged up and starting the list or starting the season on the PUP list or the IR, they're going to have to cut someone that we like, right? There's 5 guys that right? And there's other positions like that. So it gets tough, right? For sure. Real quick, let me say hey to a couple other folks that jumped in here. Let's see. We got Jacqueline San Diego. I think is that Jackie from who I'm thinking of? Maybe it is. Or maybe it's not who I'm thinking of. Maybe this is a new person. Thank you for being here, Jacqueline San Diego. I hope I'm not butchering your name. The running back situation is interesting, like we were just talking about. 100%. Is this Jackie? Is this Jackie that I think it is? If it is, awesome. Appreciate you jumping in.
It is.
Awesome. So yeah, a lot of depth there, right? How about Kyler calling plays? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I got so mad seeing some stuff out there roasting the Cardinals for this because I don't see what harm it can possibly do in the preseason, really. I only see upside to having your quarterback gain a more nuanced understanding of the game he plays. And if you want Kyler Murray to take this leadership role that everyone's complained about the whole time, then letting him see the entire process on the sideline, get him a better understanding and a deeper understanding of what Cliff is thinking in certain situations, that's only going to improve his situational awareness, which is exactly what we want. And there have been the quarterbacks in the past, like the Peyton Mannings and the Tom Bradys, that are pretty much their own offensive coordinator. And maybe someday Kyler Murray will be like that, but he is still a really young guy. And I think that's really good experience for him to get that feel for it. I don't get how people misconstrue that as somehow a negative thing. And I think they're misunderstanding Cliff's sense of humor when he makes jokes about Kyler Murray needs to know how hard my job is. Well, he's known the dude since high school. I'm sure that they have like a sarcastic relationship, just like you do with people at work. So I think it's a great thing. And hey, he scored more than Cliff Kingsbury did. So
right. No, I agree 100%. I mean, the people who took that whole this stuff ain't easy, Kyle, if you understand Cliff's humor and you've been watching him for a while, there's a little bit of a deadpan to that, and
very dry sense of humor.
Yeah. And like you like I've said this before, though, like he's known Kyler since he was a teenager, recruiting him. Those two are tight. Of all the things you might want to worry about with the Cardinals, the relationship between those two is not one of those things, right? That they're good. But it's funny. It makes for good jokes. It's time to fire Cliff and Keim and let Kyler run GM play calling. Got 2 TDs and got his Hollywood and Cody Ford. I think it's funny. It's good jokes. But in all seriousness, I'm completely with you. I see no downside to the idea that if you're going to have your quarterback sitting out for the preseason to keep him healthy, which I'm good with,
totally
get him in a situation where he will be mentally engaged with the game and looking at it from a different angle that he usually does, right? He's usually on the field Now he gets to kind of see the chessboard from a different perspective and make decisions. And there's going to be things you're going to learn, nuanced things you're going to learn. There's no negative to it aside from some kind of bad faith, clickbait seeking, people trying to make something out of it.
Exactly.
Right? So real quick, I know we got other folks jumping in, so I just want to say, hey, I know we haven't even got to our overreactions, but that's okay. We're having a good conversation. Gary D, what's up, gentlemen? Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And yes, this is Jackie, and she gave me a kind compliment for pronouncing her name correctly. So as someone who has had his own name mispronounced for my entire life, I try to get people's names right. But yeah, the Walker says cutting to the 53 is a champagne problem. It's a good problem to have when you got that many players, right? Mm-hmm. That you like. So, and then we got Hank Hill. Want to say, hey, just jumped in here. Giving Kyler another perspective on the QB can be nothing but valuable. I see no harm. 100%. So again, thank you for everyone being here. So let's get to our first reaction. Kyler, what is your first reaction / overreaction from week 2 of the preseason?
Yeah, and I'm really curious what you think about it and what everyone else thinks about it. Tackling was awful. It was not good, and it wasn't a position group specific issue either. I know cornerbacks had 6 missed tackles. I know that stat stood out, but I know for a fact many tackles were missed in the linebacker group as well. That has been an issue with the team starting lineup depth for the last several years. So this it's an institutional issue at this point. So it points to it having to be a coaching issue. I don't know what the coaching issue is because I'm not privy to that stuff, but it keeps rearing its head. It reared its head last year in the run defense. Missed tackles were a big problem. Remember Dalvin Cook just torching us. And seeing it in the depth this last preseason game just gave me the bad feels about that in particular, about the run defense. So I might be overreacting to it because I've definitely heard the arguments that it's the second and third stringers that we're watching. So you can expect to see more mistakes. But, and I would definitely agree with that if it was just this preseason game, but we've seen it the last several years with the starting lineup too. So something's happening with the bad tackling. And like Elwin points out, it comes from bad coaching. I think that's really the only answer that you can have. So I'm overreacting to that a little bit. It makes me very worried about the secondary and run defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. Maybe, I mean, it's, it has been an issue, right? So is it coaching? Maybe. I will say, and people who have watched the channel for a while know that I'm kind of a fanboy of how the Ravens do their roster building and drafting. They've been for decades maybe the best drafting team in the NFL, or at least one of them.
They're the best run organization.
Yeah,
no problem.
I think them and the Steelers probably, right? It are on that list, right? So it's like at a baseline, their second stringers and third stringers, I would think, are better than most teams' second stringers and third stringers because they just draft that depth. So I think that's worth considering. But the tackling is a concern, right? Is it a coaching problem? Maybe. I mean, Brian agrees with you that it can also be a talent issue, the people they're bringing in. That if they're not as, I mean, the defensive line has been an issue. So a lot of tackles that should have been handled in the front, in the trenches are making their way to the secondary with players that are not as good at tackling. Yeah. But tackling does seem to be a problem, right? So I don't think that's an overreaction. So Robert says not an overreaction, right? The Walker says tackling likely was a problem, likely like the tight end likely. Titans had the same problem the week before, right?
Yeah, it was 100 yards.
That dude is gonna listen. Sorry, go ahead.
That's the gift of the Ravens organization is they very rarely seem to miss on a draft pick, and it's through all the rounds. And they have this wonderful gift that we saw in this last draft. They have this magic ability to let the right players drop to them. and
Yes.
they don't overreact at any point in the drafting process. They wait, they get the right guy, they move on. It's a beautifully run organization. There's a lot to learn from that team.
Every year it's the same story. How'd that guy fall? Oh, look, the Ravens took him.
Yep.
Right. That just happens. So 100%. So, okay. So I think bad tackling is a concern. So I've got a reaction I think is kind of going to be a little bit of a building on that, or is related to that. I think the Cardinals need to scour the waiver wire, or when cuts start getting made, which they've already started getting made, and when they major cuts to bring it down to the 53, they need to scour the waiver wire for depth at safety and inside linebacker, because those were the worst tackling and performing positions in this game. Our cornerbacks didn't play great.
Yeah.
Some other positions didn't play great, but those inside linebackers and safeties, woof. It was ugly. And one of these guys, Deontay Thompson, a guy who's been on the roster for a few years as a backup safety, really struggled, right? So if you told me, hey, we're going to cut Ben Niemann and Joe Walker and as much as I like James Wiggins as a gunner, I think they might still keep him for special teams, but even, I don't know, Deontay Thompson, I don't know, and we're going to bring in someone, I might not be against that. I like our starters at safety, and I'm optimistic about our starters at inside linebacker, but those backups, ugh. So Brian's saying the same thing, right? So what do you think? Overreaction about let's just clean sweep and replace all those backup linebackers and safeties?
No, I don't think that's an overreaction. The one caveat there was Chandler Wooten had a really good game, like a really impressive game. And to your point of maybe it's time to move on from some of this depth that we have, like Joe Walker, and then Ben Niemann's not that big of a deal to be cut. He was sort of a take flyer on it camp body anyway, and if he makes the roster, great. Maybe Chandler Wooten did enough to find his way into that depth part of it. He had a great game, but yes, yikes. Because when Zaven Collins, who is one of your starting inside linebackers, whether you like it or not, is struggling, and then you see the struggle behind him in the Joe Walkers of the world, then it's not pretty. And I hate to say this because I sound like Aarron, but it kind of makes you sad that we let Jordan Hicks go away. And Deontay Thompson, he's been with the team long enough to not perform like he did. So that's concerning. It's the depth behind Buda and Jalen Thompson is a little iffy. They might be one of the best starting duos in the league, but after them, it gets pretty thin. Especially James Wiggins did not have a good game either. I think he's definitely on that line of being in this next 27-person cut. So
yeah,
we need some depth there. Definitely, I agree with you.
Deontay thinks I'm overreacting, so maybe they don't cut them all. Maybe they keep Deontay Thompson because he's been here a while. But I will tell you, and Wooten, Jordan's saying Wooten showed more than Walker, and Walker got roasted last week. Sadly, he won't get the spot, I don't think. One of my overreactions on my list is that Chandler Wooten is going to make this roster as a backup inside linebacker.
Okay, so that ties in nicely.
Yeah. So do you think that's an overreaction, or do you think that he's maybe more practice squad, or you just wonder if someone else going to grab him if we try to get him through the practice squad?
I have the same gut feeling as Jordan that the path to the 53 is really long for Chandler Wooten. He doesn't have the resume of Joe Walker. He's played NFL games. He has experience. He's started at some point. So he has a very, very long path to the 53. Yeah. But with his performances in the preseason, it makes it pretty risky to put him on the practice squad. I don't think he survives waivers. But it comes down to the numbers thing. Ben Niemann's gone. I mean, let's be real. He's out of here.
Yeah.
But it might be an overreaction to say that he's a lock of any kind, because I think that the path is long for him.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely not a lock. I'm just maybe being a little optimistic, but I'm kind of throwing the gauntlet. He's gonna make it, right? It's a long shot, but it's not the way if he has another good game this next preseason, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, right? So
I like what Jalen said. Walker has a resume, but it's not an impressive one.
Right.
No, I mean, that's accurate. Yes. He does impress. He has a resume. Yeah.
That's fair. He's got a resume with getting fired from a lot of jobs, right?
Yeah.
So Chris Banjo played nice. Bring back Banjo and Alford, maybe. I mean, I don't know where he's at. I haven't seen him.
Chris Banjo is one of the stalwarts of this team. He's great on special teams. He shows up when you need him to play, when someone gets injured. So he's always good to have around.
Paul's saying Joe Walker's ceiling is like the ceiling of a porch. We need Wooten for some time, right? Porch floor ceiling. Yeah. Listen, he looked really good. I just kind of read up on him a little bit, just his draft. And, he had a really bad 40 time. It was like 4.8, which isn't great for middle linebacker. You wonder, were there any injury things? Cause he didn't look slow out there, but you never know. But man, I'd like to see them give him a chance, right? For sure. So real quick, say hey to Jason Krall. Thanks for being here. We need to trade for a corner immediately. I think we'll talk about that in just a minute. Matthew, thank you for being here. Nice to see you back, Kyler.
Thanks,
everyone's glad to have you back, especially me, Kyler. Kyler, what is your next reaction / overreaction?
Well, I'm going to use Jason Krell's comment as my segue, because I know we saw some position groups arguably do worse, but I mean, send every cornerback you got to Arizona right now, because that room, it looks bad. I don't know that there's a way to sugarcoat it right now. We haven't seen Byron Murphy because he hasn't needed to play in this preseason. But when you've been putting so much hope in the second year leap for Marco Wilson, and what we have seen out of him in preseason has been not good, to put it mildly, you have to get someone else in there as a veteran presence and the talent part of it too. We're even past we need a veteran mentor for Byron and Marco Wilson. We're at the point where we need a talented veteran to come in and take us out of the field. Maybe Marco Wilson still grows up into the cornerback we would like him to be. He still has a lot of potential. He has all the physical gifts he could ever need to be a really good cornerback. But we're at the point where I fervently believe we have to spend money and get an experienced, very talented cornerback immediately. I don't know why we're waiting on it. I know we've been kind of expecting a trade this week based off what Gambadoro has mentioned. And the funny thing about the Cody Ford graphic coming out with cornerback under his name was pretty interesting. And it kind of points to the social media team had a little graphic set up for a cornerback. So
was that from them, or did someone Photoshop that as a joke?
That was the original Arizona Cardinals thing. Then they changed it. But
okay. So they were even expecting that. Jeez. Okay. Real quick, want to say hey to Bass Strangler. What's up, Mad Professor? Devil horns. When are we gonna stop settling? Go out, get what we want. What we want's a cornerback, right? Yeah. And Agent 47. I don't remember the last time we had this bad cornerback room. I do. Is Byron Murphy starting? Kevin Peterson starting? Guys like that starting. But Robert's saying he agrees with you. So, okay. If you're saying let's send every cornerback here, literally, like let's get like 3 or 4 of them, it's no reaction. If you're saying get 2,
I'm saying get 2.
I'm on the fence with that. And let me tell you what, I am absolutely like in the camp of we need one starting legit veteran cornerback, right? Definitely need that. Byron Murphy in the slot, I feel really good about. Hamilton has played well and looks like he's the number 2 cornerback they're saying right now. Marco, Christian Matthew, I want them to hold on to because I like his future. I don't know that he's ready to start, but he's looked good. Josh Jackson struggled this game, looked good the game before. So for me, the tough part is if you get two, let's say you trade for one and you sign a veteran off the street, like bring in Alfred and trade for someone, then the numbers game gets tough, right? So then like Christian, like if they keep 5 and they normally keep 4 to 5, right? Christian Matthew and Josh Jackson, they're trying to get them to the practice squad. And I don't want them to lose Christian Matthew. He's got the length and athleticism. So I'm a little torn on that, but definitely one. Real quick, want to say, Matthew Runyon, thank you for the super chat and support. Not sure if this has come up yet, but man, Izzy is looking good in preseason. Looks like he put on weight and still speedy. He will be good elsewhere. That's okay. Thank you, Matthew. And it's interesting you mentioned that. We'll come to that in a second. But of course. Thank you for the super chat, Matthew. Izzy's look good, right? But yeah, this cornerback room is sad. Here's what I will say though. We haven't seen, they haven't been playing Byron Murphy Jr., right? So Hamilton, they've played some and he's looked good. It's a different look with Murphy out there. But yes, I agree they need help. Whether it's 1 or 2 is the debate for me, but they need one veteran. And I did a video on trade targets. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Potential trade targets. It's tricky when you try to trade for a cornerback because teams that see themselves as playoff contenders are not going to want to trade away starting cornerbacks.
Yeah.
Right. So there's only certain situations where a team is likely to trade one. And I kind of highlight that in the video. So that's the tough part. But yeah. So yeah, they definitely need to do something, right? Real quick, I want to say hey to Jose. Thanks for being here. Saying not even funny, and what he's saying is this. Yeah. No. Yeah, based on no, thank you. Right. Real quick, we got Keenan Oken jumping here. What guards do we cut? We have too many. Well, now Justin Murray might be on his way out. We'll see. I don't have any insight on that, but just with the injury and stuff, Lasita Smith is banged up. I wonder if he might end up. They might try to get him to the practice squad. So we'll see. All right. To forge ahead, though, what is your next and hint? Andy Isabella related overreaction/reaction.
Yeah, I think. And I'm going to have to eat my previous words because I've been pretty vocal about Andy Isabella on this program before. I think Andy Isabella has worked his way back onto the 53. I mean, it's a come from behind story. Everyone should love an underdog story. I think he's looked great in preseason. Matthew had a good point that he looks a little bit bigger. I think he's always been pretty jacked. We just haven't noticed. But his training routine's pretty crazy. I've seen some of that stuff before, and he's pretty built. But we've seen some more interesting things in the way he's been used in preseason, where he has value just because that type of speed doesn't come around every day. And he's drawing DPIs. He's doing what he's meant to do, stretching the field. And he has crazy speed, and he keeps showing it. So his catching looks better than it has. I did see a body catch in the Ravens game, the old standard Andy Isabella body catch. But I think he's earned his way back onto the 53 roster. He's a draft pick, so he has that going for him that he's drafted to this team. So I think you always get a little bit more consideration in that regard. And yeah, he threw a nice block or two down the field, and he can do that down the field because he's just crazy fast. The main debate in my brain, like Agent 47 said, and maybe some other people, is the Dortch Isabella battle. I don't know what happens there. I want both of them on the team. They both looked fantastic. But I don't know if it's an overreaction or not, and maybe I'm putting too much stock into preseason, but I think Andy Isabella has shown that he belongs to play out his rookie contract at least here.
So I'll tell you, the numbers for receiver aren't as bad as you think in terms of making the roster, because Hopkins is suspended for 6 games. Obviously,
and they usually keep 6.
They usually keep 6, and Tweezy is banged up, so he might start, I don't know, PUP or IR. So the numbers aren't as tough as you might think. Isabella actually, as it stands, would make the roster pretty easily if they don't bring someone in. But I'm going to take your reaction, and I see you and I raise you. Andy Isabella is going to be a starting receiver this year for the Chicago Bears.
Oh, what? They need receivers so bad. So you might be something there, yeah.
You could add another team, but like there was a tweet that went out. I forget who it was, but that Andy Isabella was drawing some trade interest. Mm-hmm. And he's played pretty much the whole game, these last 2 games. Yep. And I think that was by design to not only just, give him a chance to kind of earn a spot on the roster, but also to showcase him, to try to get trade value. And I got to say, if that's what they're doing, I think it's gone to plan. I mean, I don't know what the interest is, but he looked good, right? You got what you would have wanted in terms of that. So, like Cole Larkin is saying here, send Andy Isabella and a 6th or 7th for Greedy Williams. Cleveland needs wide receivers as bad as we need cornerbacks. Greedy he's a name that a lot of people have been talking about. If you watch my video about targets, he's the one I put as the most likely. Listen, I could see that, right? So to me, that might be, but the Bears, their receiving core. I mean, listen, they had
hit hard. Yeah.
Well, listen, and they were hoping N'Keal Harry was going to be one of the receivers, and he got injured, right? Like when you're in a situation, no offense to the ASU alum, but his career has not gone as planned thus far. When you're like, oh crap, N'Keal Harry's injured, our wide receiver situation's in trouble, then it was already in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But I think, man, he's shown he can play. I think he's talented enough he's got an NFL career. He needs a change of scenery, I think, right? Do the Bears have any good cornerbacks? I don't know. That'd be nice, right? But I don't know if they have any they're willing to trade. I don't know. So folks, and Kyler, do you think that is an overreaction? I know you thought again, you have a reaction on him. And folks, what do you think in the chat? Overreaction that Andy Isabella is going to be a starting cornerback in the NFL or wide receiver in the NFL this year. What do you think, Kyler?
I don't think it's an overreaction because we have kind of an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver right now. They're not all huge names or anything, but I think a lot of them are very talented and starting caliber wide receivers on a lot of teams. Andy Isabella is showing that he is improving. He still has the speed that you can't teach. And there are other teams in such desperate need of wide receiver, far more than we are, where we're doing pretty well in that regard, even with Hopkins out 6 weeks. So I do think he will be a starting level wide receiver somewhere in the NFL. It might be in Arizona. It might be somewhere else. An alternative situation, he could be an in-season trade too. If we need to keep him around to get us through the Hopkins list 6 weeks, then that might be a possibility. And he's a little bit later into the season type of trade for maybe a Chicago team who's doing a little bit better than they thought with what they're working with, and they need another piece to keep going. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of possibilities with Andy. If he makes the team, I will be happy for him. I think he seems like a cool guy, a nice guy. He's never had anything negative to say about anyone or his teammates or the team itself. And he seems like a put his shoulders down and just work type of guy. So I hope something works out for him. I think he deserves it.
I mean, I could see Kansas City. They have a history of liking small, fast receivers too.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Annie Isabella, and I know one of my earliest videos was Rondo Moore's not Annie Isabella 2.0, but so it felt like maybe I was throwing shade at him, but it's never been like it's never been personal. I want Andy Isabella to do well. I'm sad it didn't happen here. I want him to get a chance. I think he needs a change of scenery, and if he gets a change of scenery, I'm going to be rooting for him to be successful. Yeah. Right? I feel bad for him because, the whole thing about, we should have taken DK Metcalf and this, that, and people held that against him, and he had nothing to do with that. Right. So, that's unfortunate. So, I think that could be really interesting, what's going to happen, but I do think, I think he's going to end up somewhere. Right. And I think when we asked this question earlier about why were the Cardinals waiting to trade for a cornerback, and in one of my videos, I kind of floated the idea, well, maybe they were planning to go after Greedy Williams, and maybe the Browns were waiting to see what was going on with the Watson suspension to decide if this was a lost year or not. Another idea is, well, maybe they're going after Marcus Peters with Baltimore, and who just came off the PUP list. So maybe they were waiting for that to happen. But I am now starting to increasingly wonder if the reason we haven't traded for a cornerback yet is because the Cardinals were wanting to get at least one more game with Andy Isabella showcased to get that trade value up. And now that it is, and now that teams are making their moves this week, as Gambo forecasted, next week they're going to make a trade. Next week, after the Ravens game, after we've showcased Andy Isabella a little more, I am increasingly wondering and maybe leaning towards thinking the reason we haven't got a cornerback yet is because they all along have been planning to get one in a trade that includes Andy Isabella.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree with that logic. I think part of the hang up on not having done a cornerback trade yet is probably less an us thing than it is other teams, because they want to get a little bit closer to the season, see what injuries happen, and see what their depth chart's going to look like closer to the actual start of games. And I get that, because I've definitely heard the rumors out there that there are done deals, but it's the other team who's like, we want to wait and see what our injury situation's like, which is logical, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think an Andy Isabella to Chicago trade for a cornerback is going to happen, because their cornerback room is just as rough as ours. So no one there.
Cleveland is probably the place, right?
Yeah,
maybe Baltimore. I mean, I know they just signed Demarcus Robinson, I think, but I could see that.
Although I will say Chicago does have Kyler Gordon, and I do think that there is some value to having one Kyler on both sides of the ball. I think it gives us a nice equilibrium, and it's just a really good, strong name that will keep things moving. Yeah. And I liked him in the draft.
Right, because it's a Kyler, right? Yeah.
It's just a good name.
So Jordan's
I liked him in the draft, and I think he's probably a good player, but he is a rookie, so they're not going to trade him.
So Jordan has joined me and grabbed his tinfoil hat and put it on, and he's going down the rabbit hole with me. Also, to go further down the rabbit hole, I think that reports saying Andy has trade value was just Keim leaking that out to draw interest.
Maybe,
right? Maybe, right? So, yeah. So I know there's a lot of comments. Sorry I didn't get to all of them, everyone. But so Andy Isabella, maybe, right? So we're getting towards that 45-minute mark. So here's what I'm going to do. Kyle, maybe we'll go make 2 minutes over. Can you hang?
Of course.
Real quick, folks, get in the chat your reactions. Quick one-line reaction, overreaction to this last week, and we will in kind of quick fashion kind of respond to your reactions and talk about whether we think they are overreactions or not. While you're getting those in the chat, please do us a favor and click like if you haven't already. Grandizer's been reminding folks that. Thank you for doing that. real quick, I want to say hey to Lance thanks for dropping in here. Appreciate you. Lance is a really good dude. Really appreciate you. If there's anyone else I'm missing while they're getting those in, I'll just take this comment. I know people have wondered about is Golden holding in, because there was the thing he put about undervalued, underpaid, underappreciated, but I put in the work. I don't think he is. I agree he's underpaid. I think outside of Arizona, he's underappreciated. Cardinals fans, we know he's the dog, right? But I don't think he's holding out. Honestly, I think that was, how can I say, he was just articulating I'm an underdog. I'm underpaid, underappreciated, undervalued, but still I put in the work. Yeah. I don't think he was sending a message to the Cardinals brass. I hope he gets a bigger contract next year. I think he deserves a little bit of reward. He took a below market value contract, but I don't think, and Brian right now. So Brian, I'm going to say your reaction, Golden's holding in for a raise. I'm going to say overreaction. Kyler, what do you think?
I don't think he's holding in either. I think he might have been voicing some frustrations, but if he has those frustrations, I think they're valid.
Yeah.
He was the sack leader for the team last year, and he's expected to be the same again. And he is not getting paid that much money comparative to other team sack leaders. So I get it. He took a lesser deal to come back and stay with Arizona because he is one of the purest Arizona Cardinals that we've ever had in franchise history. He finds someone who loves you like Marcus Golden loves the Arizona Cardinals because he's insane, and I love that man. I think he's my next jersey. I think he is.
I have one jersey actually. I've never been a huge jersey person, but I bought one last year. It was Marcus Golden.
Heck yeah,
that's why, right? All right, so let's go through these. We'll try to get through them quickly. So just give a quick reaction, overreaction, and 10 seconds as to why, so that we're not here all night. Kyler, reaction: Kyler outscored Cliff. Kyler should be able to call his own plays.
Overreaction, but I do hope that it leads to more confidence going both ways for Kyler Murray to assess what's going on in the field and make those sort of changes that he needs to make. If there's a little bit more faith between them for Kyler to audible into something he's comfortable with doing, I think that's a beautiful thing, and that helps. But, you got to have a play caller.
I say it's overreaction. I love that he did well. I love that he's getting the experience like we talked about earlier, but Cliff needs to be calling plays. Yep. All right. Let's see. Cliff needs to call plays to McBride. Overreaction or appropriate reaction?
It is an overreaction for what we've seen so far. I mean, it was his first time playing any type of NFL game, so I can see easing him into that. He's a high pick, and he's not just going to be thrown into the weeds in preseason and potentially get hurt. So
yeah,
I think we're going to see that. It's going to be interesting how he is used with Max Williams doing well with his injury and looking like he's going to be okay for week 1, and Zach Ertz already being a heavy target. But he'll get worked in. I think he has a future and a bright future with the team. We'll get there. Just rookie tight ends, you know what they say.
Yeah, I think it's no reaction only because it's preseason early. But I do think they need to get him involved as the season goes on. Matt Prater is about to jump off the cliff this season. What do you think, Kyler? Reaction or overreaction?
I'm kind of on the fence about that one. I'm scared a little bit, nervous, because kickers out of all the positions seem like it can be just light switch moments of when they're good and when they're bad, because it's such a mental thing that they do. And he's missed 2 extra points in the preseason when the pressure's pretty dang low. And maybe he's just not taking it seriously because it's the preseason and he's been doing this for so many years. But I'm kind of ready to get hurt by a kicker again, and kind of gives you that feeling.
Yeah, I'm gonna say he's gonna jump off the cliff. I'm not gonna go that far yet, so slight overreaction, but I'm also worried, right? Yeah. Is Josh Jones just starting material right now? I'm gonna tell you right now. I'll take right off the bat. one of my reactions was Josh Jones is ready to be a starting tackle. He's looked good. There was a tweet that I shared, retweeted about someone who follows offensive linemen who said that he did some of the best work he's seen this preseason. I know people are down on him because he played badly as guard last year, but he's not supposed to be a guard. I think he'll be our starting right tackle next year. And if someone got injured, I would not be scared to have him starting at tackle for us if we needed him to right now. I'm bullish on him. What do you think, Kyler?
Agree with you, and the key word is at tackle. I think he is the plan at right tackle going into the post Kelvin Beachum years. Just not a guard. Guard was bad, but tackle is where he lives, and he's performed really well in the preseason. He's gotten a lot of credit and a lot of praise for it.
Awesome. I'm gonna just try to shotgun through a few more of these. Sorry, I can't get to every single one. Everyone. Let's see. This one. Hayes, Hernandez, and Ford equals young run graders. I think we all agree with that, right? And I like their potential. Okay, Greg Dortch has passed Wesley even when he gets back healthy. That's a good one. What do you think? Reaction, overreaction?
An overreaction just because they play very different roles. Greg Dortch, awesome. I think he's really talented, but he is very small, even though he's very fast. And Wesley he's kind of the anomaly in that room. The wide receivers are a little bit undersized outside of AJ Green at 6'4". The only other 6'4" dude we have is Anton Wesley. So they're different wide receivers. So I can't say that one is better than the other.
I agree. They are each one. Dortch is the third slot receiver. Wesley's the third outside receiver, more or less. Right. So completely agree. And maybe we'll get one more. Sorry. We'll end with this one. Overreaction. We lose the first 5 games of the season and Vance is on the hot seat.
Whoa. You go, Joe. What do you think?
I think that's an overreaction. I think we'll at least win 3 of them. And then I think, and I don't think Vance is on the hot seat. I think I'm a little more optimistic. They got to get a cornerback, but I think he'll be okay. What do you think?
I think in the first 6 games, anywhere from 2 to 4 wins is pretty reasonable. The house has to be on fire, I think, for us to go 0-5. I think Kyler Murray's too talented of a quarterback. And I think the talent that we have on offense is too good to go drop 5 straight out of the gate. Everything's possible, but I think, everything better be on fire if we go 0-5.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I promised Kyler to get us out of here in 45 minutes, and I've been a bad host. We're at 52 minutes.
We've got 8 more minutes to make it an hour. Let's do it.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Dude, who's the MVP? Who's the real MVP? It's Kyler Burd. Everyone, Kyler Burd has just given us 7 more minutes to make it to an hour now. Dude, you are my hero. Wow. Okay, so we're going to get a few more of these comments. Kyler is the man. All right. So, Ian, thanks for dropping in. If we have Beachum goes down, he could play either side. He was turnstile last year at guard, but tackle. Right. Yeah, for sure. Walker's, no way Dortch is better than Tweezy. I think they're just different spots, right? So, different roles. Yeah. Here's one. And I want you to kind of hit on this one. This is good. Did Zaven pop off the screen for you guys? It was nice to see him fly around. What do you think, Kyler?
See, he did not show up on the stat sheet very much. He had one really nice looking tackle for loss, so he gets a lot of credit for that. But what we did see him in, I think he only played 28% of the snaps, something like that. He didn't play a ton. And he didn't play just lights out, but compared to the week 1 of preseason, he was just around the ball a lot more. So it seemed like his vision has just sort of acclimated to playing in a game environment maybe a little bit better, because you did definitely notice that 25 was much closer to the ball in a lot of these situations. So I hope he's getting better. He has to. because we're pretty locked into him. He's part of the future plan, so he has to get better. And I think he did. He showed something different, and he showed something better.
He played 16 snaps on defense, had a PFF grade of 63.2, so it wasn't great, but it wasn't the worst. He is better than any of our other linebackers other than Wooten. So there we go. Let's see. McBride, a better blocker than Likely. I mean, did Likely even block? He was too busy catching the ball, right?
Yeah, he was just catching too many passes to care about blocking. But McBride did have some good blocks.
McBride
his game.
Yeah, McBride, the book on him is he's an all-around tight end, good blocker and receiver. You're getting some love for being the man. Kyler is the man. Burd putting in that work. Love the jersey, Kyler, right?
That's my favorite jersey for sure.
For sure. Real quick, want to say hey to CG Ruthless Sports Network, who does some 49ers content. Thanks for dropping by. Here's an overreaction. Ready for this one? JJ Watt will play all 17 games.
That's what dreams are made of. if he plays all 17 games, then I'm so much less worried about the defense. I don't trust that he will or can. I know he would if he could. He played through a horrible injury for part of that Houston Texans game. I don't think it's going to happen. I just think he's at that point in his life. But if he did, beautiful.
Yeah. If we get 14 games out of him and he's healthy going to the playoffs,
yeah,
I am taking that 6 times a week and twice on Sunday.
I would be ecstatic with 12 games.
As long as if he's missing games, it's early in the season and he's back for the playoffs. Yeah. So the odds are against that. So that I'm going to say it's no reaction, but boy, I would love to see that. Right. Real quick, we talked about this earlier. You think we're going to trade for a cornerback this week? I think we're going to acquire a cornerback this week. Whether it's a trade or a free agent is yet to be determined. I know there's reports that they're planning to trade, so I think that very likely could happen. But they're going to get one. I think they're going to get one way or the other. Brian, thanks for being here. Do you think we will overcome our home game losing slump this year? What do you think about that, Kyler?
I don't know, because I'm unclear at what causes it, really, other than Arizona just being what it is as a state and having so many transient people and you come from another state where you already have your team loyalties. So getting that building filled up with only Cardinals fans is a struggle. The opposing team generally has pretty good presence there. And I don't know if that plays into it or not, but we've definitely heard the embarrassing moments of opposing teams being louder in State Farm than Arizona fans. I don't know why we played so poorly at home. We are the best, the number one road team in the league last year.
I think wasn't it 8-1 on the road?
Yeah, crazy. I don't know what caused it. From my memory, it hasn't been that bad in the past. It was kind of a last year thing. I don't know. What do you think causes that?
That's a great question. I'd have to look at the schedule. I wonder how much of it just happened to be how the games fell in terms of tough were our home games earlier in the season, tougher opponents, and then it corresponded a lot with just that slide towards the end that was kind of not about home or away. It felt like we lost a lot of home games down the stretch, so I don't think it was so much a home and away thing as much as a end of the season thing. So that's kind of my thought. I do think we'll be better this year. I just think it was a little more of a coincidence about where those games fell. But we'll see though, right? Everyone's talking about JJ, exactly what Kyler just said. Overreaction. JJ, he thinks that's overreaction and being healthy. I think probably is. But this is an interesting question. How many games will Watt need to play at his usual production to get an extension?
JJ Watt to me seems like he's at the point in his playing career, kind of where Larry got in his 30s, where it's 1 year deal, wants to keep playing, 1 year deal, wants to keep playing, give him another 1 year deal. So if we're talking about that, giving JJ Watt a 1 year extension, I think it's the 12 games mark. If he plays over half the games and he's available in the playoffs and he's playing at least 80% of what we have come to expect the name JJ Watt to signify, then yeah, it's good enough to keep him around for another year just for the 80%, because that's better than most of the league already. And the community guy, the locker room guy, like having his presence in Arizona has a value as well.
Yeah. I think that number 12 to 14, but I think the price has got to come down.
Yes.
Yeah, 15 million.
15 again.
Yeah, team friendly deal. If he wants to be back here and he's willing to take a lesser deal, and he can play 12, 14, I think I'm good with that. Real quick, I want to say hey to Mr. Mana who just jumped in. We're wrapping up. Kyler, why don't you take this question and then we'll take this quick and then we'll get out of here, right? And also, hey, Mark Jackson, thanks for being here. Appreciate you jumping in. Take this question and we'll get out of here. So, do you think Cameron Thomas should be played more at defensive end in this 3-4 defense, hands in the dirt versus occasional coverage? The guy played as an undersized nose tackle in college. What do you think?
I would agree with this for the most part. He does strike me more as that type of guy. I think you know a little bit more about Cameron Thomas than I do. You put a little bit more of the work into the draft prep than I probably got around to. But yes, he is more of that traditional defensive end look than what we're putting him in at outside linebacker. And granted, we use that position in an odd way. It's that flex edge outside linebacker. You can do a lot of different things with it, but between the two rookies that we took that are at that position, Sanders definitely fits more the role of what you'd think of this outside linebacker edge. And Cameron Thomas is more the Zach Allen defensive line 3-4 defense type of guy in my brain.
I think he's just like he's a little he's closer to that Zach Allen guy than the other linebackers is. He's kind of an in between. He's like that Trey Hendrickson kind of a guy, right?
Yeah,
that's the kind of guy who. So in those pass defense sets, when they go that 4-2-5, I think he's more that defensive end. So I think they can move him between the two. So if some people get injured or it means it gets him playing time and they move him in a little more like that, I don't mind. But I wouldn't want to fully have him put on weight and move inside because I like what he has potential outside. So, Kyler, you are such a trooper. Omar, thanks for dropping in. Jose, thanks for being here. We couldn't get to all your comments, but tell people where to find you. Anything you're working on, anything you want to promote, anything you want to shout out, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, definitely. You guys can always find me on Twitter. Very active there. At azcard_birdseye. I think that's down in the description. And where you can find me now is just at azsportsunderground.com. It's the website that Joe and I have going on. We've got a lot of great writers going with us right now. We're trying to cover as many Arizona sports as we can. So we've got a lot of Cardinals content out there. So if that's the only reason you're here, then there's a lot of stuff for you there. But if you're an Arizona purist, there's a lot of Phoenix Suns. We're trying to get some more Diamondback stuff up there. So trying to be that spot for you to go and get the opinions and the news from independent content creators talking about all the Arizona sports. And we're trying to make it your one-stop shop. So we hope you'll check that out. The link should be in the description below. It's going great, and I've had so much fun working on it with Joe and with the rest of the guys.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed getting to work with Kyler. This is just getting to know you better working on this. It's been a lot of fun. It's really been great. So thank you all for being here. A lot of the writers, I got a handful of writers who dropped in tonight who are with us. So you can check me out there. I do some writing there. So if you want to see my writing, that's a place to find it. Obviously, you know where to find me on the YouTubes and on Twitter. So thanks everyone for being here. A huge thanks again to Kyler for toughing it out and really being the MVP of the night. Thank you all for being here. we're going to get out of here. Let me, as we get out of here, obviously do, though, the shout outs to our channel members, the folks who committed to supporting this channel on a monthly basis. Thank you all for your support. See y'all later. Peace.